All right. Hey. Okay. So our topic today, I'm actually like a little nervous about because I struggle with it significantly. And so that's why I was like, this is a good one to share, but also take it with a grain of salt. I'm not the best person to teach it because I'm still struggling with it myself because I'm human. Like we all have a human. So you guys all know I'm working my way through that book about the principles. And this is actually called Transforming Your Inner Critic to Your Inner Coach. And like the first thing that struck me, um, so scientists, they're all out there. They say on average that a human talks to themselves up to 50,000 times a day, which sounds like a crazy amount. But if you think about how many thoughts you have probably had in your own mind since you woke up this morning till now, like we just talk to ourselves all day long, whether we're really thinking, and some of it we're like really thinking through something, but a lot of times it's just like something that's running through our mind. But here is the kicker: 80% of our automatic thoughts are negative. 80. Now, I also read something where someone said 87. So anywhere between 13 to 20% of our day is positive and the rest is negative. And you guys, I mean, that's easy math. Like right there, that's completely unbalanced. But negative thoughts such as, I shouldn't have said that. They don't like me. I'm never going to be able to pull this off. I don't like the way my hair looks. That other team is going to beat us. I can't dance. I'm not a good speaker. I'm never going to lose this weight. I can't seem to get organized. I'm always late. Like, how many of you like hear yourself in those thoughts? Like those are just things that like just ruminate through your brain. So what he talked about is that how like our negative thought, so we all know that thoughts drive action, right? Like what we are, you are what you think, all that stuff. But negative thoughts truly, how did he word it? They actually control our behaviors. So positive thoughts, positive thinking, we can wrap our mind around and create a behavior, but negative thoughts just automatically drive our behaviors. So there's a whole lot going on in the back of your mind 24/7 that you may not even be paying attention to, that is literally driving your daily behavior. So it's so important to like stop and think. And I think it's hard for us because we just stay so busy, right? Like how often do you stop and think like, okay, like, have I been mean to myself today? Have I talked down to myself today? Am I setting myself back already? It's noon. Have I already set myself back for the day? Like we don't really take the time to do that because we just keep plugging forward. So now that you're aware of that fact, like I think it's really important to remember that. And the other thing that's to think about, positive and negative can also like change your actual physical self. But again, negative drives more behavior changes physically, internally, than even positive. So the example was like a negative thought. So, and it could be anything from being worried, being scared, being like a depressive thought. It can actually change your body temperature. It can change your heart rate. It can change your blood pressure. It can change your breathing rate. It can change the tension in your muscles, and it can even change like your hydration levels based on like sweating. So like like you're super nervous and maybe you start sweating. Or I have a girlfriend, God love her. Every time she gets nervous, she has to go to the bathroom. Like there's just okay. So I have two girlfriends. Like Cassandra just raised her hand and said it. So like again, the reason I want to kind of start off this way is just so you can really think about, there's this thing called toxic positivity where we're all like, oh, cheer up, chip up, that kind of thing. And I don't like the toxic level, but I'm all for like being positive. But I think it's really important to truly acknowledge the power of your thoughts. And we talk about manifesting, we talk about vision boards, we talk about setting goals. And so again, that's only talking about the positive stuff. And so it's really important to start thinking about the negative and how much it truly does physically affect you and how it is on autoplay, right? So like we have to take time to say our affirmations. We have to take time to sit down and maybe write out our gratitude journal. You don't have to think twice. 80% of your automatic thoughts running through your head are negative. So I just want you to understand the power of what we are up against as humans, but also the power that just because it's happening doesn't mean you have to respond to it. Okay. So there's actually a doctor, which I thought was so, he's a psychiatrist, Dr. Amen, 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 Dr. Amen. I just thought that's a God thing, right? But anyway, he termed the or his term is ants. Like, you got to stop your ants. Well, ants stands for automatic negative thoughts. Okay. And so what he says, when you have these, first you have to become aware of them. And so that's why I wanted you to really think about like how much you talk to yourself during the day, and whether you realize it or not, how much is probably negative. You have to identify them. You have to shake them off like you would an ant. You have to stomp on them. But the only way to truly stomp out an ant, a negative thought ant, is to replace it. And that's where it's tricky. We just want to like squish it and be like, oh, I'm done being. How many of you have been like, okay, enough pity party. Okay, I'm done being negative. Okay, rant over. Right? See, we just want to shake it off and like stomp on it and be done. But the fact is, you have to literally replace that thought, or it'll still have space in your mind. I'm gonna put my glasses on for this. So, trying to deal with any kind of negative thinking is to realize that you are ultimately in charge of whether you listen to it, whether you agree with it. Just because you think it or hear it doesn't mean it's true. How many times have you said stuff to yourself that isn't true? Like, oh my God, my hair is horrible. Okay, maybe you're having a bad hair day, but your hair isn't horrible, right? Oh my gosh, my house is a mess. Okay, maybe there's some tidying up that needs to be done. So if you break it down to that, I know it might seem minuscule, but it's those little things that we say that's not true. That's not the truth, right? I'm looking at Carolyn. Like, I know that is one woman who would always tell you the truth, but to herself, she's probably not telling herself the whole truth all the time, because we're saying things like, oh my gosh, I've had a horrible day, or oh my gosh, I've had this. I had a horrible moment. Someone said something mean to me, but my day, you know what I mean? Like, we've got to get really honest with ourselves about what we decide to say, and honest with ourselves about what we decide to believe in what we hear. You have to constantly keep asking yourself, is this thought helping me or hurting me? But again, you have to stop. You have to stop yourself and think that through. Is it helping you or is it hurting you? Is it getting you closer to where you want to go? Or is it taking you further away? Is it motivating me? Or is it blocking me with self-fear and doubt? Because here's the thing, like, I have a really strong inner critic, like strong, like she can be rough, but she can also push me to do good things. Like, my inner critic can push me to be better, can push me to, make one more reach out. She can push me to have an honest conversation with, like, she can push me, but she can also be really mean. So it's a fine line between listening to her and deciding if what she's telling me in the moment is true, if it's the whole truth, and if it's something that's actually leading me. There's going to be a moment, and we'll get into this, where like your inner critic sometimes is just trying to protect your ego. So your inner critic will block you from moving forward, because you might get hurt moving forward, or you might fail moving forward, or that kind of thing. So first of all, we're going to just very quickly, because this could take a long time and I don't want it to, we're going to talk about the different kinds of negative thoughts, because I just kind of lump everything together. I never really thought until I was reading through this, like, how you're probably all going to recognize something from every category, but you may notice right away that one category is more dominating in your life than the other. Okay. So there's the always or never thinking. I'm never going to get ahead. I'm never going to make this business is never going to work for me. They never call me back. I'm always posting and no one's responding. Like, the never and always, it'll get you every time, because again, that's a partial truth. You're not always posting and they're never responding, right? It's not that you're never going to be successful, right? It's just that conversation you're having. And then there's the focusing on the negative. And this is the one I feel like a lot of times, I mean, people who are just constantly negative, just constantly, like every word out of their mouth is a negative comment. But then when I think to my inner critic and the things I'm saying to myself in my head, I'm pretty negative too. I'm clinically, we're all scientifically proven to be 80% negative, right? So this is, in most cases, this is going to be like a pattern that you've learned. And I will say, and we talked about this kind of before a few weeks ago, the pattern is that we grow up learning to focus on the negative. If you fail a test, you get a lot of attention for failing. If you pass, good, because that was expected, right? And so it's the same thing, like when, like the one example he said was, he was talking to a teacher who was like super frustrated because They had a class of 30, let me see, 34 children. 4 of these kids could not pass this test. And the only thing the teacher could focus on was the fact that 4 kids kept not passing. 30 were passing. 30 were having a great time. This teacher was doing amazing with 30 children, but the 4 that weren't was just completely eating that teacher alive. And so the teacher got into the like, I'm a horrible teacher. I don't know how to teach. I can't get through to these kids. When in reality, the teacher was doing great with 30 other ones. So there was something more going on. But we do that a lot. How many of you are like, you get so focused on that one customer or that one promoter that won't do anything, and you forget about all the promoters on your team and customers that are doing amazing and feeling great and feeling wonderful. So you have to, that's one where you purposely have to start looking for the positive. The other type is catastrophic prediction. And I am ashamed to say how good I am at this one. Like, how many of you can immediately, the plane's going to crash, we're going to lose our, like, you know, I don't know, we're going to lose our house. I don't know, you name it, like the, you know, the thing, like catastrophic thinking. And catastrophic thinking is one that is very connected to the raising your blood pressure, making you sweat. Like that is, those thoughts are so powerful that they will actually cause physical problems. So if that is one you struggle with, like identify it and let's start replacing it. Mind reading, this is one that we do all the time as promoters. Mind reading is actually negative thinking, because how often do you mind read? Like, how often do you be like, oh my God, I got a message from Sonia. I bet she's telling me something fabulous. No, you're like, oh my God, Sonia sent me a message. Oh, I bet we're having trouble with that customer. I bet that promoter is like the order wouldn't go through, right? Like your brain automatically, you start mind thinking, like you start mind reading what you think's going on. Guilt tripping. And I know for a fact, because I love you all do it to yourself. Should have done this, ought to do that, coulda, woulda, shoulda, right? Those coulda, woulda, shoulda, that's literally a waste of time, because you're talking about something in the past, not focused on the future. Labeling is one I kind of struggled with, because I don't know, I guess I didn't feel like I did it a lot, but I guess I do. Like, if you basically saying, like, if you label like I was a jerk or he was a jerk, or like you kind of lump people into groups, it's a negative thought, obviously, but it's also a coping mechanism. Like, instead of calling out what truly happened, you just lump somebody in there. So you just assume everyone knows that person hurt you because they're a jerk, versus like really diving into what happened. My mother was the travel agent for guilt trips. I understand that deep in my soul. The last one, and then we'll move on from here, is personalization. So this is another one that we do constantly in sales. You personalize when you invest in a neutral event. So in other words, Samantha hasn't called me back yet. She must be mad at me. We've probably lost, we've lost the account. It's all my fault. She's mad. I said the wrong thing in the chat. She's not, you start to personalize something that you literally have no idea about. Like, Samantha's a great example, because we have a time change difference between us. She has 2 children. So if you were waiting on a message from Samantha and she didn't write you back right away, and you immediately started being like, oh my gosh, she's mad at me, you're in for a world of hurt, because especially in a couple of weeks, we're going to be back to 3 hours difference. And I'm so sad about it. Anyway, okay, so moving forward, so here's where we're going to get into the nitty gritty. So you may want to get pen and paper if you have it. If not, you can always go back and do this. So here's where we're going to dive in, and we're going to learn to talk to ourselves. He says talk to yourselves like a winner, but this is where you're going to learn to transform your inner critic, who is judging your every move, into a supportive coach who will encourage you and give you confidence. And this is where we go back to telling the whole truth. What we're going to do is we're going to teach our inner critic that they have to start telling us the whole truth. So the example that he gives that made me realize that we do have these conversations with ourselves all the time. We also have it with people that we love. How many times did someone that you love scare you? So like maybe your kid ran off in the store and you couldn't find them. Or maybe they were playing in the woods and they didn't yell back. And when you do finally find them, you're like, oh my God, like now that you're here and I know you're safe, I want to kill you, right? Like you're so mad at them because they scared you. And so you just yell, okay, you're grounded. Like, you ran off again, you're grounded. Or go sit in the car. Don't like whatever. Like you just, what comes out of you is just that first little bit of the truth instead of acknowledging. So here's the 4 steps. You have to acknowledge your anger. You have to then state what the fear. Then you have to, your inner critic has to give you the request. And then they have to follow up with the love. So for the example of like the kid that ran off, yes, you're angry because they could have been hurt. Your fear was that they could have been run over by a car and died, right? Like it's a deep, deep fear. Your request is that they start looking left or right, or they start asking for permission before they go to a different aisle, or maybe your request is that they keep their cell phone on them, like whatever it is that you need to have that fear of, okay, I know where they are, I know that they're safe. And then all of that is coming from a place of love, right? You don't, if a kid that you don't care about runs off, you're not too worried, right? It's never bugged you. Can't find Sally. Well, she got on my nerves anyway. We're not worried about it. Like, you know what I mean? But so here's how this is how it goes into your inner critic. Most of the time, your inner critic is not putting you down, but just not telling you the whole truth. So like, for example, how many times have you said to yourself, you are a fat slob, or like you're a lazy butt, right? Like you've had that thought, like, oh my God, you're lazy. Oh my God, you're being lazy. Or, oh my gosh, you've got to stop eating so much sugar. Or like, you know, in the case of your business, oh my gosh, you've got to stop not doing your 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, right? You've got to start showing up on the Zooms. Like you have this inner critic that's telling you what you shoulda, coulda, woulda, right? That's all coming from a much deeper place. So for example, if I were to like say, oh my gosh, you've got to, you know, you're being so lazy, you've got to start moving, you got to start moving your body more. Well, my anger is that my anger would be that I'm allowing myself to lay around and not like live life to its fullest. My fear would be that because I'm not taking care of myself, that I would die young or get sick or become a burden to someone. The request that my inner critic could then say is, I would love for you to set a schedule or to set some sort of daily habit that would get you up and moving. And why? Because I love you and I want you to be here a long time, right? Like, so again, it's the whole truth, but your inner critic, you only usually hear the first part of the truth, right? Like, oh, you've gained 10 pounds, you lazy slob, or whatever. I don't know, whatever your brain would be saying. So here is the exercise of it, right? So you're going to make a list of the things that you say on the regular, and you guys know the regular, you know what circles through your brain. And maybe what was circling through your brain on the regular 6 months ago is different. So I want you to focus on what's in your brain right now. So if it's related, like let's say it's related to your business and you're like, I'm never going to get 12K. I'm just never going to get 12K, right? Maybe that's what your inner critic is saying. I don't know. Or I can't get new customers. Or no one on my team wants to work. Or I'm not a good leader. No one's going to follow me. Like whatever the thoughts are, business wise, personally, whatever is going, you're going to write them down. So you're just write down a list of all the things that you tell yourself when you're judging yourself. Include all the things you tell yourself that you should do, but you don't. So I should do 3 more reach outs. I should do a Facebook Live. I should go to Thrive Palooza. I should, you know, all the things, right? We have all the things. Write all of those down. Once you have completed your list, you're going to practice communicating with your inner critic using those 4 steps. So you're going to identify the anger. You're going to identify the fear. You're going to make the request. And then you're going to explain the love that it's coming from. Be very specific in the request stage. State exactly what you want yourself to do. So he says, like, for example, if you're saying, I want you to eat better, that's very vague. Like, you got to be really specific. I want you to eat 4 servings of fruits and vegetables a day. So when it comes to business, if you're like, I should do 3 more reach outs. Okay. Why are you angry about your inside my head? Oh, Sonia, weird. So the anger would be, I'm mad at myself for not doing more reach outs because I know I could do it. I know 3 reach outs aren't going to take me that much more time. So I'm mad at myself for not doing it. All right. I should do it. The fear. I'm afraid to do the reach outs because that could be 3 no's, or it could be, I'm afraid to do the reach outs because I'm afraid I'm doing them wrong. Or I'm afraid to do, like, there could be some really deep seated stuff. I'm afraid to do the reach outs because what if they all say yes? And then I don't know how to help these 3 people. Like, there could be lots of fears underlining in this, right? The request. I want you to do, so, okay, Tammy, we're going to do 3 more reach outs than we normally do. We're going to do one at 9 a.m., one at noon, and one at 4 p.m. Like, I'm going to be very specific, right? You're going to reach out to someone from the first letter of the alphabet at certain times. So you can get really, really specific. Which the more specific you are, like, as soon as, so if you heard how that changed, as soon as I said, I'm going to do 3 reach outs from the first letter of the alphabet, one at 9 a.m., one at noon, and one at 4, I literally just created a to-do list in my head that when you look at that on paper, it's not that hard, right? But prior to that, I was panicking and stressing about doing 3 reach outs because my inner critic was like, you should do 3 more, you lazy ass. Like, why aren't you taking the time to do 3 more? Don't you want to build your business? Like, all these things that start to go through your head, right? The inner critic can be really, really mean. And then followed up with the love. At the base of me wanting myself to do 3 more, because Tammy, I want you to have a great business. I want you to be proud of your business. I want you to be excited about your business. I know you can do these things. Do you see how different that conversation is versus you should do 3 more reach outs, you lazy ass? Right? Hey, why don't we do, hey, I'm kind of mad that you're not doing these extra reach outs. And I know you're not doing it because you're afraid they're going to say no. But if you do a reach out at 9, noon, and 4, you'll knock them out really quick. And that's going to bring new business to you and new life to your business. That's a full truth, right? That's the full truth versus you should do more reach outs. So again, this could go with anything. It could be involved with your health. It could be setting a good, like, maybe you don't wake up at a certain time like you want to, or go to bed at a certain time like you want to, or maybe you're not eating well, or maybe you've been going to read a book for 8 months and you've never, like, there's all kinds of things. But the fact is you have to hear the inner critic, identify what it said, and then break it down and make it tell you the whole truth. Because as soon as my inner critic was like coming at me really bitchy, right? Like, you're lazy, you won't even do 3 more reach outs. That's a critic. But then when my coach said, hey, I'm angry you're not doing 3 reach outs because it wouldn't take that much time. I know you're afraid to do them because you're afraid they'll say no, but you're going to knock them out, at 9, noon, and 4. And that's really going to bring new life to your business. That's a coach. That's a conversation I would have with one of you, right? I would easily say that to you, but up here in my head, I'm just like, lazy, do 3 more, right? So it's just identifying how you talk to yourselves. And the other thing that I'm going to talk about real quick before we hop off here is silencing your performance critic. And I so want to talk about this one because every single time someone does a live, a Zoom, a local, and anything, as soon as it's done and someone says, hey, great job, the person who just got done doing it is like, oh, I meant to say this. I should have said that. I was rambling. I should have had notes, right? Like, you literally start shitting the hell out of yourself instead of being like, thank you. So I'm going to take you through, well, first, let me just cover some of this real quick. So it's after you've done something. So in that case, like, you guys heard all my examples of what we do. It's when you're on the way home after you've done it, you're listening to in your head is telling you all the ways that you messed up, all the things that you should have done instead, all the things you should have done better or could have done better. Here's the key. If you listen to that voice very long, it will undermine your self-confidence. It'll lower your self-esteem. It will demoralize you, and it will eventually paralyze you. So if you get off a Zoom and you literally listen to yourself for a day and a half about how bad you did, next time I ask you to hop on a Zoom, you're going to be busy, aren't you? You're going to be real busy that day. You're not going to be available. Oh, I'm 365 days. I'm super busy for the next 365 days. So remember, the deepest motivation, the underlying motivation for your inner critic is to help you be better. So at this point, when you start hearing your critic saying you should have said this, or you shouldn't have said that, or you said too much, or you said too little, blah, 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 blah. You have to learn to say, okay, critic, I hear you rambling. I'm going to have to ask you to stop. And instead of critiquing my performance, coach me through what I can do better next time. Okay. So if you get done with the Zoom, you get done with the, like I'm just thinking of like a Wi-Fi wealth. Like every time someone speaks on Wi-Fi wealth, I tell them how great they do because I'm always impressed with how great everyone does. And they immediately start saying, well, I meant to say this. I should have said that. I hope this was okay. It's in that moment that you can stop and say, no, okay, critic, I need you to coach me instead. So an example that he gave was this. So this guy is a public speaker, and he was saying that after one of his speeches, it just started happening, like, oh my God, I can't believe it. I shouldn't have said this. I gave him too much information. I should have broken this down. And so he said, okay, inner critic, like, hold up a minute. I'm not going to let you judge me because we can't change what happened, but we can change what happens moving forward. So what is it that you think I could have done better? And it's and this is very powerful, but again, very hard because you're gonna have to stop yourself to do this. Having the conversation with your inner critic and then actually jotting down the things your inner critic tells you. Because remember, your inner critic knows your full potential. Your inner critic wants you to get there. So if you really say, okay, what could I do next time to be better? Not what should I have done, because it's over. We can't focus on that. What could I have done to do better? So let's think about a group chat with a customer. How many times have somebody's put someone in a group chat and they're like, oh my gosh, I don't know, I might have said the wrong thing, or oh my gosh, I gave her diarrhea of the mouth. I told her too much about Thrive. I went on, right? Like we've all had that. Okay, self. So what could I do next time to make this better? And automatically, I know things are coming into your mind, right? I should have asked her a couple more questions. Okay, write that down. Group chats, ask more questions. I should have let my upline ask. I should have just handed it over to the upline and let them talk. Okay, group chats. Don't talk so much. Give it to your upline. But there are things that are going to come to mind, but you have to write those things down so that you know next time to do better. So for all of you that have ever been like, I'm going to go live, I'm going to go live, I'm going to share my Thrive experience, and you finally do it, and then you're done, and you're like, oh my gosh, that sucked. I was horrible. I shouldn't have said this. I should have talked more about that. I should have talked slower, blah, blah, blah. Okay, inner critic, what can I do next time to get better? All right, well, next time, maybe we'll have notes in front of us to refer to so that we don't get all over the place. Next time, we're going to purposely talk slower. Next time, we're going to just focus on one portion of my story. You can take those coaching thoughts now into your next live, and it's going to be better. There's no way around the fact that it won't be better. You just coached yourself to be better. So just remember that you have an inner critic, and she's mean. She's mean, right? Because she doesn't tell you the whole truth. So it's literally like, I always think like, I don't know, when we were little, I felt like every cartoon, or there was the good angel and then the devil on your shoulder, right? You got to have conversations. Like those two have to start talking. So when the devil gets fired up, the angel has to come in and say, hey, what would you prefer instead? You'd like, talk to me differently. And I think it's really powerful if you can break down the negative thoughts that you have. First of all, you got to identify them, which is, it's not as hard as you think if you really sit and do it, but it's taking the time to identify them. Then you have to be willing to have the conversation. Okay, why am I angry? Why am I saying such mean things to myself about this topic? What am I afraid of? What would I prefer myself to do? What action steps? Like, what is the request? And why do I feel that way? And that goes back to the reach out example I gave you guys. But that could be with like even eating better, right? Like I'm angry that you're not eating better because I know that you're making bad choices. My fear is that you're going to have a heart attack. My request is that you start incorporating vegetables in your life. And it's all because I love you and want you to be here forever, right? That's like breaking down those 4 things. And then also asking your inner critic to coach you instead of just reaming you. So that the full exercise to do is to make a list of the things that you constantly hear yourself saying to yourself negative. There are some things on loop. And here's the trick. If in this moment you're like, I can't think of it, or I've had a really great day and I'm not having anything right now, that's okay. Just keep your journal open, because throughout the next 48 to 72 hours, something's going to pop up. A few things. Just jot them down. And then pull yourself aside from your day to day. Take one of those things, identify the anger, identify the fear, create the specific request, and then bring out the origin of love, of where that's coming from. Is it because maybe you're angry that you're not 12K yet, because in your heart of hearts, that your inner critic knows you can do it. That's the only reason you'd ever be angry about it, right? I mean, I have never, let me make this so clear to you. I have never, ever been angry that I'm not a brain surgeon. Never been a thought that crossed my mind, because it's not for me. It's not in my path. It's not in my heart. It's not for me. Right? Like, you are not going to be angry at yourself for something that's not meant for you. You just won't be. I'm not angry that I'm not a school teacher. I'm not angry that I'm not a marathon runner. I'm not angry about those things. The things I get angry about myself are things I know are for me and that I can be doing. Then I have to have that, like, why am I not doing them? Why am I afraid of doing them? How can I move forward? Then you're like, literally, you'll come up with that. It could be as simple as you're not moving your body enough, and next thing you know, your brain's like, I want you to take a 5 minute walk every afternoon at noon to get out of the stressful situation at work or whatever. Like, it'll just be something really simple. And it's because I love you and I want you to be healthy. I want you to have, so when somebody says they're angry, they're not 12K, it's because they know that money can change their family's life. It's not coming from a point of greed. It's coming from a point of, I know that this could help my kid get through school. This could help pay cash for Christmas, right? Like, there's a deep loving reason that your inner critic is mad at you. But most of the time we just take the anger and move on. When in reality, we got to break that down so we can fully understand what it is that we want and how to move forward. So I know this is a lot. I know it's like big picture thinking, but hopefully this helps you to really sit and think down, like, what am I being negative about to myself? And how can I stop being negative, turn it into being a coach versus a critic? I'm good. I'm glad you liked it, Sandra D. Okay, with that, I'm going to hop off here because in 20 some minutes, we have a corporate call and they said there's an announcement. So let's not miss it. All right.